Hi, welcome to FIberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today is Leila from the Urban Purl. Hi, Leila.
Hi.
So you are one of the dyers who created kits not only for this Westknit Mystery Knit Along, but also for the past 2 years.
Yes, that's correct.
Like, you can tell us all the secrets, right?
Oh, yeah, I know everything. Not.
Well, when I'm looking at the previous Mystery Knit Alongs, there were few dyers that Stephen was showcasing, and he always showcases there's different kinds of dyers. There are some really big, really famous dyers. There are some less known boutique kind of dyers. And this year, what I appreciated about the variety of kits that been offered, there were a lot of different price points as well. So they were more budget kind of kits, and they were very luxurious kind of over the top kind of kits.
Yeah.
How far in advance before the Mystery Knit Along announced do you start thinking about what colors you're going to put together for these kits?
Okay. Well, this year we had a little bit more lead up time. So I was contacted by Stephen West's office. I think it was back in end of April. Yeah, end of April. And basically, it's just the first contact is just, would you be interested? Have you got time? We need it by this time. So they gave us a good long time this time around this year. So we had a couple of months, a good few months, or I did anyway.
Right.
And I need it because it's just me on my own. So I don't have lots of staff. But in the past, they usually start it a bit later and they give you about 6 weeks.
Right.
Or they did.
Well, the first time you got in contact with Stephen West and his team, how was that? How did that happen? How did you become one of the dyers for
Oh,
Mr. Knit Along?
okay. So I think back in 2019 or 2020, Stephen and Penelope put out a call on Instagram for just new dyers or up and coming dyers of a diverse background or BIPOC background. So one of my knitting group friends just sent me the message on Instagram and said, "Why don't you apply for this?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll send something off and see what happens." And they came back to me and they said, "Oh, they're very interested," and it kind of went down that route. And it turned out that they placed an order, and I stock my yarns in Stephen and Penelope, and I have been since I think 2019 or 2020. So because they could already see most of my colours and it's stocked on a sort of regular basis, yeah, I guess he just contacted me, or they just contacted me and said, would I like to do this? Would I like to be one of the dyers and partake in the mystery knit along? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, the first thing, right? When you just stock your colors at Stephen and Penelope, it's one thing, right? Because you have the artistic freedom of suggest whatever you want. And here, this is what I have. They can pick it, right? When it comes to kits, what was your thought process? How did you approach picking?
No, well, with my kits anyway, I don't know about any of the other dyers, but certainly with my kits, Stephen selects all the colours. He might, if you haven't got a colour, if you haven't got the dye or whatever, and you get back to him and you want to talk about the colours, or maybe you feel really strongly that I don't think these colours will work because of whatever. Then the discussion happens, and then you just go back and forth and try and sort the colors. But when they approach you and propose to you that, do you want to do this? Basically, they already have the colors, the kit colors in mind.
Right.
So they did actually want me to do a few more kits. I could only do 2 this year because I had some other commitments at the time and I would never have been able to complete it all. So I don't know what the other colours were. They didn't tell me. They just, yeah. So he basically sorts the colours out and gives you the brief, and that's pretty much it. There's not much more input from me.
Well, this year you had Heart Sunset and Rune Obsession. And let me tell you, I'm like obsessed with this Rune Obsession, like each and every color. And especially like when I see it as a kit on Stephen and Penelope's side, it's very nice. But when I saw it on your Instagram, there's like close up and like you see the depth of color and you see all the little specks and variation. I mean, my heart just like skipped a couple bits like right there and then it spoke to me. Were you happy, like when you saw those kits, were you like thinking, oh yeah, like that's definitely going together? Or like, do you think, well, you know, like, yeah, that's cute, but like could have done better? Like, what's your initial first reaction when you saw those?
So when I first saw the kits, especially for this year, they were perfect. They were really, you know, I think they would be the ones that I would choose absolutely myself. I mean, especially the Rune Obsession, because those kind of darker, moodier colors are really my kind of aesthetic. They really resonate with me.
Like, swear, those were delicious.
and they are I have put those similar colors together myself for things. And yeah, that Rune Obsession is definitely, yeah, one of the best kits that I think he selected from my whole plethora of colors. But the Heart Sunset I absolutely loved, because it's not, red is a really difficult color to sell sometimes. So I think the color choice for the Heart Sunset was just perfect. It looks so good together when you've got all of them all packed up. Oh, it's amazing. It's really, yeah. And I love that whole kind of like a sort of like a really cool, neutral kind of colors of the Rune Obsession, and that sort of really warm, glowing Heart Sunset. Yeah. Really.
Well, you mentioned in one of your videos once that a lot of names of the yarn comes from like London streets and like your love of history. What was the inspiration behind the names for these kits?
Okay, so the Rune Obsession, that comes from basically 2 of the colors. So one, the dark color is Obsession, and I basically called it Obsession because I was obsessed with that color. As soon as I dyed it up, I was like,
it's a logical name, yeah.
Yeah. And then Runestone, well, it just harks back to kind of pagan circles, pagan runes. Yeah, and my love of that kind of mythological and, you know, ancient historical stuff. Heart Sunset, that is based on the very dark colorway Bleeding Heart Yard, which is actually a place. It's a courtyard in East London, in the city of London, kind of Holborn area. And it's got a very gruesome history, which I think involves, I think it was back in the 18th century. I think it was the Lord Hatton or somebody, and it was his wife, or I think it was his daughter, that was found murdered in that actual courtyard.
Right.
And it's the myth is that her body was there and her heart had been pulled out but was still beating, and that's why the courtyard is called Bleeding Heart Yard. There's actually a really good French restaurant called the Bleeding Heart Restaurant, or Bleeding Heart Restaurant. It's really good. Anytime you're in London, you should go.
I know, like, you know, I just was there right before COVID happened, and I loved every second of it. And I was like, if I had to pick a place where I could see myself living, it would be definitely one of the places. That and Florence. I don't know. Florence is like another place that pulls my heart.
Florence is beautiful. I haven't been there for years, but I do remember it was beautiful. Yeah.
Well, tell me, like, in general, how did you get into the yarn dyeing?
Oh, um, yeah. So been a knitter for a long time. Started off just using commercial yarns, as everyone does, you know, and then really got into the hand dyeing or hand dyed yarns. And been on a very tight budget at that time. I couldn't really afford to buy everything I wanted, as many people can't. And I'd always toyed with the idea of oh, maybe one day I could dye some up myself or whatever. But I didn't want to become a yarn dyer. I didn't even really think about doing that. And I think what happened was I bought some yarn from Etsy, off of Etsy, and it looked amazing on the picture. And I was so excited about this one skein coming. And it was a deep, dark red. It was, oh, it just looked beautiful. And what arrived was
Not that.
was an insipid kind of orangey, washed out. Yeah, it wasn't great. And I was so upset. And I thought, oh, right, I'm going to send this back. And actually, a day later or something, I thought, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if I can over dye it and get it to the color that I want. So that was it, basically. That was the first time I did any dyeing. It turned out amazing. Well, at the time, I thought it looked amazing. I look at it now and I think, oh, could have been better. But so that was back in 2017.
I mean, have there like ever been times when it happened to you when you thought like you're getting that color that's like so perfect, and then when it dried, it was insipid and not what you thought it's gonna be?
So I think because I'm a self-taught hand dyer, basically, at the very beginning, you know, you do a lot of experimentation, and especially with some colors, like you dye them up, they look great when they're wet and they're still damp and it's, you know, the color's really strong. And then as soon as it dries out, it's like, well, that doesn't look quite as good as I was hoping. So I think that's how I got into doing the layered colors. So you basically you dye a couple of times, and you do applications or lacquers of dye on top of the yarn. And it's very time consuming because especially the way I do it, it's very time consuming. But it gives that depth of color. It gives that kind of dimension, that glow that you get from those kind of really, they're not super saturated, but they're just layer on top of layer of color. And sometimes if you make the bottom color slightly darker or slightly lighter and the same on top, slightly darker or slightly lighter, you get this kind of iridescence sometimes.
Do you remember like first time discovering Stephen West?
Oh yeah, I mean, God, from years and years ago, you know, made hats, I've made, yeah, all sorts of things.
Well, what about his design speaks to you?
Do you know what? I think when I first discovered Stephen, I think his designs were just so different from anything else that I had seen. They were really modern. They were really funky. They were innovative. And anything you ever did, even if it's just knitting a hat, you just learned something new. You learned a new technique, or you learned something that you could knit a patch of knitting in between other knitting, and how you'd make it look like it was one piece, the whole block. I mean, it was just blew my mind. And it was, he was just so creative. His colors, everything were great. I mean, I was definitely sort of, used to wear black a lot. And I think getting into dyeing has kind of helped me approach color in a different way, and made me feel a bit more bold about wearing different colors and putting different colors in my knitting. and addressing sort of stronger colours or doing mad combinations of colours that I would never, you know, I would never.
I love that call. Yeah.
I mean, you know, 10 years ago, there was no way I would have done that. But it's just given me the confidence, I think, to you know, in my dyeing practice, but also just, you know, in my personal life, just wearing and enjoying colour.
Well, I mean, I interviewed another yarn dyer, Kaiti, from the Yarn Whisper.
Yeah.
And I love Kaiti, like he's an amazing guy. And I feel almost bad because he creates his own kit this year. He loved a lot of kits that were offered, but because he's a yarn dyer, he decided he's gonna play with colors. And it was like, okay, should I go this way or should I go that way? So I almost feel bad for the yarn dyers because here you have Steven, bigger than life, with his vision, which is a mystery to us all, right? And you have to come up with something that's gonna make his vision come true to life and like not disappoint, right? Do you feel like when you look at his design, do you immediately imagine like what colors would work for it? Or is it a struggle for you to think, oh my God, like what would I use to any show? Like I'm not even talking Mr. Knit Along, like any design that he comes up with, when you first look at it, do you feel like it's harder for you because you're a yarn dyer to pick colors?
In some ways, yes, because you've got so much choice. In other ways, no, because even though you've got so much choice, because you're a yarn dyer, you can actually have them at to hand and play with them, all the colours that you can think of. Right. So it's easier in that way. You have pretty much your own yarn store, you know, in your home. And if you haven't got the right colour, you just go in the studio and just dye it up. Right. So in a way, I don't know. I think it's a really personal thing. I think some people approach, you know, they'll have a set of colours and go, okay, what can I make with this? And then you have other people who go, oh, that's a lovely shawl. Now what colours can I use for that? And I think there's a bit of both. I know I certainly do both. I'll see some colours and go, oh, wow, that's a really good combination. Now what, you know, on my huge queue in Ravelry, I'll go through it and say, okay, now what can I make? Yeah, and likewise, I'll do it the other way around too. So,
well, when you think of like, let's say, think like a shawl or a cowl, right? Like an accessory.
Yeah.
Think, okay, my coat is gray, so this is gonna go, or my coat is bright orange, so these colors won't go with it. Like, do you think about your wardrobe when you create an accessory, or do you create an accessory and then you think about what you're gonna wear it with?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I think I'll be moved more by the color and pattern combination than how it would work in my wardrobe, because my wardrobe will just have to change or adapt accordingly. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, when you pick like designers that catch your attention, like what usually catches your attention? Because there's so many brilliant designers, right? Like what usually gets you to like, oh, I have to knit it?
Oh, wow. It's never do I need it, because that doesn't really come into it. What is it? I don't really know. It's really hard to say what really attracts me. Usually if it's a pattern, it's color. I think when I'm browsing through Ravelry or anywhere, Instagram or anything, it would be color first that catches my eye. So it's not really about the pattern, and then I'll look at what the color is hanging on. What is it? Is it a jumper? Is it a shawl? And then I go, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's really, and with shawls, yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with shawls. So if you like it, then yeah, you got to make it.
Well, when you saw that day when all the kits were announced and you saw all your colleagues there with their yarns, what was in your head? Like, what did you think about the variety of kits offered that year?
Because there were so many this year. There was so much choice. And wow, amazing dyers. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was really quite, yeah, it was quite something to be in amongst all of those dyers. I was just gobsmacked at how much choice there was. And as you said before, I think, you know, there was so much choice, so many different price points, but also, you know, quite a lot of different kind of feels of yarn, you know, different types of yarn. Not everybody likes that kind of smooth superwash type of stuff. Yeah, they want something a bit more rustic. And that was catered for, I thought, this year as well. I mean, there was so much choice, and the kits that everyone came up with, or you know, supplied, yeah, they were all great. There were quite a few in there that was like, oh, that's really like those color combinations. Yeah, yeah, it was a really good offering, I thought, this year. Really good.
When you think of Stephen, right, and all his designs, is there a design that, like, if you have to describe Stephen West to somebody who, like, you know, just crawled out from the rock and doesn't know who Stephen West is,
yeah,
is there like one design that you think represents him the best?
Just one? Do I have to choose just one?
Surprise me.
Okay, so all right, so let's one shawl. I would say Exploration Station, because I think for me, when that came out, I was just blown away by it because it was so different, really innovative. Those huge yarn overs. I was like, wow, I love this. I still haven't made it, by the way.
I'm also have it on my needles like for a couple of years. I don't know why I didn't finish it.
I know, but I just love it. I love that whole shawl, and I think that's a quintessential Stephen West shawl. That really encapsulates for me his playfulness with color, texture. He did that huge one with all the fluffy texture. It was like a big blanket. Oh, amazing! And then all the techniques. Yeah, I think that for me is really the shawl. And then for a garment, I think it's got to be the penguono. You know, the
yeah. And that's his favorite design, by the way. He said, like, when I was interviewing him, he mentioned that that's his favorite design.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's the one that jumps out at me because it's got the kind of the patchy quality, the molds, you know, using lots of different yarns, again, technique, construction,
right,
just outside the box. Yeah.
I mean, do you have any predictions at what this year's shawl what kind of techniques it might hold? Do you know?
No.
You know, whatever goes on FIberchats stayed on FIberchats. Nobody's gonna watch it.
Well, we don't get to see anything. We're not privy to any spoilers or anything. So I'm just like the rest of you. Cables, twisted stitches, traveling stitches. Well, who knows? I don't know. I kind of think there's going to be two halves, and then the accent color is going to be crossing over the two somehow. Traveling stitches or cables, two color cables.
Do you think there's going to be brioche?
I don't think so this year. I don't think, yeah, I'm not convinced there's going to be brioche this year.
Is there like any technique that sort of intimidates you personally?
Brioche. I still haven't done it. I don't know why. I'm not sure. Yeah, I've just stayed clear of that at the moment because my brain space is completely taken up with other things like dyeing wool, and I also still work. I have a job as
Well,
well.
are you gonna participate in this year, Mr. Knit Along, do you think?
Yeah, I
And
am.
do you have your colors picked?
Yes, I do.
Can we see them?
You want to see? I had a feeling you might ask me. So, okay. So, as I said before, I kind of tend towards the kind of darker, more moody colors. Now, I haven't got, these are the colors, but
They're like jewel tone green.
so there's this
Love that.
kind of, it's got flecks of blue and green. Then that's the accent color.
What's the name of the accent color?
Ostara.
I feel like I just have to have it, so I might just have to order it for myself or something else.
It's quite,
It's beautiful.
into greenies. And then this is the color, but it's not the yarn base. I'm waiting for that to come in because it's been stuck in the North Sea on a container. We've been having terrible problems with our stock. But anyway, that's the color, which is just a gray with lots of, well, not lots, but a few speckles. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. What are the chances of you changing your mind on October 6th and going with something completely different?
Oh, yeah. Very high, I think. Very high. Good probability, yeah. I don't know, but that I think I might stick with it because it was actually one of my customers who put that combination of colors together, and I was, I don't know. For me, I love all the colors, so it's quite hard to choose, but there's that moment when you get that little kind of leap of joy in your stomach when something comes together and you just see it and you're like, and it kind of almost takes your breath away, and then you just know that's the one for you, and you've got to go with your heart. And and then of course you can be as fickle as you like afterwards and choose something else, but for that moment I think you should stick with it, and that's the color for me, the colorways.
I've been talking to a lot of people who have a really hard time picking the one. Yeah, because they bought a kit and now they got the kit and they're not 100% sure about the kit, and then they bought some other yarn and now they're not 100% sure. Like, is there an advice you can give those who struggle to come up with like the final color choices?
I think a lot of it sometimes, I think also that feeling of not being completely sold on your color choice is because you don't know what it's going to be. You haven't seen the pattern. And I think until you see the pattern, or you start getting an idea of how the colors will work together, then then I think maybe for some it's not going, you're not going to have that confidence, that 100% confidence. You can just keep buying and buying, or looking at colors and looking at colors. I think if you see something online and it seems to work online, I think you just got to go for it. I know it's really difficult. I mean, I just did a show at the weekend, a yarn show here. So a lot of people were coming to the show and to the stands with the knit along in mind, and putting colors together and seeing what works. And it is really difficult, even when you've just got you've got 50 or 60 stall holders with all their yarn and you're running from one stall to the other. It's quite hard. So it's difficult. It is difficult, especially when you have no idea what you're going to create.
Are you a fan of mystery?
Yeah, I am, but I'm also a real control freak. So I have just go with it, and then no, You've got to know what's going on.
Well, do you think Stephen is the same way? Do you because he's very like relaxed, don't stress, like if there's a mistake, just fudge it a little. But then he's very organized, he's very on top of everything. Do you think he has the same split personality like you do?
I think what it is when you're super kind of organized and you're on top of your game like he is, then yeah, you can allow for a little 5% of freedom and it's cool because you know exactly what you're doing. So that's kind of allowed, it's fine. And I think for him, I think because he is such a master at what he does, you know, he can be relaxed, he can be kind of completely stress-free about it, you know, because it just rolls out off his fingers, you know. it's like, yeah, okay.
Well, do you think like there is anything that Stephen can create that's gonna disappoint us and we're gonna be like, that mystery wasn't worth all the hype?
Oh, I mean, it's always possible. Anything is possible, but I think maybe I don't know. I mean, some people don't actually like quite a lot of the Stephen West
Do you think they
design.
don't like it because they don't like the design or because they didn't pick the right colors?
I think it's because they didn't pick the right colors. And also, I overheard someone, because I'm just thinking back to what I overheard at the weekend, because it's such a hot topic at the moment. Everybody was kind of talking about it. And I had my, what was it called? Slip Stravaganza. And so this is my version.
Yeah, I love that one.
And I had that hanging up, and there were so many walking around. You had to really do a double take to say, oh yeah, that's a slip, because they all look so different. And then a couple of people looking at mine and saying, is that one of Stephen West's shawls? Because it's kind of
like more subdued, and it's like it doesn't look like the crazy like neon kind of version.
Yeah, it's more subdued. It's a bit more kind of conservative, I suppose, or muted colors.
Sophisticated, they would call
it. Okay.
We don't like conservative, we like sophisticated.
Chic, sophisticated. Yeah. It's not crazy colors. And quite a lot of people were saying, oh, I really like that now. That's I didn't realize you could do that shawl in those colors. So maybe I think it's frightening for some people, or not frightening, but a little bit scary. They can't quite envision how to make it work for them.
Right. I mean, that's what I love about Stephen's patterns, because there's so many projects, so many people do it, that you get to see wide variety and you can find colors that you would work for you, you know. Sometimes it's difficult. Like I noticed, like I had this conversation with one of the guests of the Humans of Mystery Knit Along, that sometimes like when a designer needs something in 1 or 2 or 3, whatever, their colors, for other people for whom it's not their aesthetic, it's hard for them to imagine that same shawl or garment in their colors that would look good on them. So it limits them like in trying the pattern, not because the pattern wouldn't look fabulous on them, but just because they can't imagine it looking good on them because of the colors that the designer used. So I think like the fact that so many people knitting Westknits patterns makes it more, also like helps people who wouldn't necessarily go with yellow and the, you know, bright neon and pinks, find the colors that speak to them, you know.
Yeah, I do think that when you think about color, and especially with Stephen's shawls or Stephen's mystery knit-alongs, part of it is taking that dive, that leap of faith, and just choosing colors that you would wear. And you obviously you've got to like the colors that you've chosen, and the possibility that you would wear it and it would fit somehow with your whole wardrobe or aesthetic or something. So that's half the battle. Then the second part is basically just having trust in Stephen to deliver something that you would wear.
Right.
And he would also have an idea of the balance of the colors. He's already said there's two contrasting, and you can go as high contrast or as low contrast as you like. And all the kits that were available were pretty across the board, actually, high contrast, low contrast, real pops of color, very muted pops of color, very tonal in effect. Right. So I think there was a good selection. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it'll be really fun.
Me too. I'm so excited to start this.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for sharing the insights of like the workings of the Westknits and all the preparation that goes behind the scenes there to make this event such a success.
That's fine. I mean, I only know my small part of it. There is so much that goes on at the headquarters in Amsterdam. I mean, you can just imagine, just yarn everywhere. It must be great. But have you got your kit sorted out, or are you a stash?
I'm team stash this year, so this is what
Ooh.
I chose so far. But I might change my mind. I don't know.
Oh, I love that. Is that a pink? Because
it's really red? Like a raspberry pink. It sort of shows more as a red on the camera, but it's like raspberry, like pink.
Yeah, because I can see some pink highlight. Oh yes, I can see some real pink highlights in that. Oh, that's going to be lovely.
So it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone because people jokingly call me Smurfette for my love of blues.
Oh, really?
So I decided to go like pink this year. So we'll see. But I might still play a little bit with some of the colors.
Yeah. Oh, I think that would look lovely. That's great.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really, really loved talking to you and getting to
My pleasure.